Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
This is what I end up doing for the base. This is made of poplar, and I got the wood at the hardware store, and this wood is really, really hard. So what I did was I had to measure the angle of the ship and support it with 4 posts. I didn't want to see any power wires in this at all. So going from the wall to the ship, or from the base to the ship, or whatever. So I ran a plug through the back post, and that's just a DC male 5.5 millimeter, I believe, standard plug. And I had to drill a hole through the post and run the wires through to the bottom. And the posts are wood glued in and screwed, and they're not going anywhere. But the base isn't done yet, so that's just the basic bare bones, bare wood, literally. I'm gonna paint it, and I'll probably cover it with something, and then I have to raise the base up about 1 inch so I can run switches into the base to turn the power on, and also to give me some room on the bottom for the wiring, because it's literally sitting on the wiring, which isn't good. So I still have some work to do on that. That's pretty important for the ship because it has to look good, but I don't want it to take away from the model, so I don't want it too flashy. So what I've been doing is I installed the hook, the crane, whatever it is. I think that's to grab cargo or whatever, blockade runners. I also installed the 2 dishes, and everything's all painted. So it looks, I don't know if you can tell, but it looks a little darker because what I did was I actually put a coat of, this is actually Vallejo Gray model wash, and I thinned this with about 1/3 wash to 2/3 water. You can use water or Windex or whatever, doesn't really matter. I just use water. I just thinned it. So, and I put it on with a decent sized brush, a light coat, and I let that dry. It dries pretty fast, but I let it dry overnight, and then I came out today and I actually went over the entire thing. This is a microfiber cloth, and I used Windex, and I went over the surface and took off any wash I didn't want. This is actually the power plug to the base. So I forgot to tell you about that. So I drilled a hole in the bottom of the ship, and I ran this connector through, and that's epoxied in. So it's super secure, and it should not push into the model, it should not move, and you can seat the ship right on the base, and it will get power. You won't see any wires or anything. I make it sound easy, but it really wasn't, because I had to figure out exactly where I wanted that plug to go. And so the wash brought out a lot more detail. It wasn't necessarily weathering. You really don't want to, I mean, you can certainly weather this, and so I'm sure people do. It shouldn't look new. That's the key. It doesn't have to look beat up, but it should look used, it should look new, or it should look like it's been flying around in space. I'll probably take more weathering off of that. The good thing about the weathering is you can you can take off, which you don't want if you do it right. And what I mean by that is you can put the wash on lightly, and if it doesn't look dark enough for you, just put it on again. And you can also take away what you don't want using Windex if you're careful. And what I did, I forgot a step. After I painted it, I coated the entire model with a matte clear coat and let that dry, and then I put the wash on. So the clear coat will seal the paint. If you put the wash on, certain washes, this is an acrylic wash, I don't really think that it would have been as bad if versus an enamel wash, but it will bind to the paint if you leave it on too long, and if you don't seal the paint. I always coat the model with a clear coat, whether that's matte, satin, gloss, whatever ship I'm doing at the time, whatever warrants it. And then I put the wash on, and then I seal it again when the wash is all done. So the bottom is pretty much done. I don't think there's anything else. I have to do some more up here. I didn't take the wash off as much in the front, which I have to do. I did all back here. I did all in the back area. I just didn't do up here. It didn't take me long. I just went over it with this cloth and got it to the point that I want. I think I'm still gonna, like I said, I'm still gonna take a little more off. And I also put some on the back. Put some wash on the back as well. It did not look right when it was painted. When it was just paint on there, it just didn't look right. It looked like a, I don't know, maybe like it rolled off the Star Destroyer assembly line. It looked too new. So now it looks really good. So now I have to do the same thing to the top. And I also have to run some SMDs along the side of the ship for side lighting, which I haven't done that yet. And I think I'm going to do that tonight because I got my SMDs from Japan. They only took about a month, but they're so much cheaper that it's worth waiting for. So that's pretty much it. One other thing I forgot to mention, the seam is basically it's hidden. I don't think it's going to be too easy to spot. You could probably spot it, but it's not really noticeable. In this light, it's kind of, you can kind of see it. But the way I did the seam after it was sanded, I filled in a lot of the holes, and then I went back with, this is a scribing tool, and I scribed all of the panel lines that got any putty. There's still one here I have to do. Any putty that got into these panel lines, I scribed out, and I kind of joined some of the lines that went across the seam, so it made the seam a lot less noticeable. You can barely see it. I guess if you know where it is, you could see it, but if you don't, I don't think that you're going to be able to tell where the two pieces join up. So pretty happy with that. Hey guys, what's going on? So you can see the fibers all trimmed up. I have those little pieces are everywhere. I think I vacuumed them all up, but I'm not sure. I'm sure I'll be finding those for years. It's looking pretty good. couple of things I still have to do with this. I obviously need to finish the base. I just painted it black, and I have a couple options. I have a couple options as far as what I'm gonna do or what I can do. The larger lighting on the side of this ship is SMDs. They're 0805 SMDs. They're very small, but I have to tone them down a little bit. And there's a couple that they're not aligned perfectly, so they're kind of shining. They're more floodlights than spotlights, so I have to tone those down. I might just use black paint and partially cover the SMD so it doesn't shine as much light. There's 4 on each side, and the way I put those in was I drilled a hole in the side with a not a tiny drill bit, but it had to be big enough. The bit had to be big enough to get the SMD through, and I filled in the hole with canopy glue, and you won't even see it. You can't really even see the SMDs if you're just looking at the ship unless you know where they are. If the lights are off. These engines look great. I'm pretty happy with the lighting. I didn't need to add any more. I don't think I need to add any more, and I didn't overdo it and put too many on. It looks pretty close to how it should. So what I have powering this is a DC, there's a DC plug that's powering this that is variable voltage. So it goes from 12 volts down to, I think, 3.5. And you can adjust it. And I think what I might do, since I don't have any flickering lights on this and nothing blinks, I'm just going to tone that down. I'm going to bring the voltage down. I'm going to step it down and see exactly what brightness I want. Bottom looks awesome. The front bay, what I did with that is I just put a couple of fiber strand. I put 5 on each side, so it lights up the bay, but it's not bright. It looks great because it's not obnoxious or anything, but you can actually see the interior of the bay with the light that's there. And the bottom bay, I'm really happy with the way that turned out. I think that looks pretty good. And the only lights on the bottom, there's some there's some in the back, and some on the side of the bay. Not that many on the bottom. The bridge detail looks really good. That was pretty easy to put on. There were some fit issues with the top piece, which I was expecting, but nothing that I couldn't get around. Maybe 1 or 2 light leaks that I have to fix. There isn't much light inside the Star Destroyer, so it's not... I intentionally covered everything up inside so I wouldn't have that problem where there was light coming out of every possible little crack or crease or whatever, but I don't see really. There's like a couple of them that I have to fix, not that many at all. So it looks really good. So the base, I think I have these resin Death Star tiles. I have a whole bunch of these. There's like 5 different tiles. And I think I'm going to cover the bottom of the base with these. And then I might paint them black. So you have some kind of a texture on the bottom. It's not just plain wood. But it's not going to be gray where it's going to kind of compete with the ship. With everything would kind of blend together. And I don't think I'm going to put any lights on the base except for a spotlight. I think I'm going to put a spotlight on the base and shine back. It'll light up the bottom of the ship a little bit. I'll have to see how it looks. But yeah, that's looks pretty close to a Star Destroyer to me. Very happy with it. So what I'll do is I'll do a finale video after I have it all together and everything is cleaned up with the base and the model, and it's kind of in display. So thanks for watching so far, and let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer any. Thanks, guys.